But now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our first speaker today, Armin Schweinfurth.
Hi.
Good morning, Armin. How are you?
Hi. I'm good. How are you?
Fine, thank you. You are
Great.
a business development manager of Alfaview, and you will now tell us something more about digital sovereignty and data protection, and especially how a German software company is committed to real data privacy, correct?
Absolutely. That's right. Yes.
Well then, let's start. Looking forward to your presentation, and the stage is yours. Have fun.
Thank you very much. So, okay, I will start to transmit my slides here. So I guess you can see my slides. At first, I'm happy to have the opportunity to speak to you today. I think as part of the privacy conference, you have certainly heard many topics about aspects of legal points or legal informations regarding data protection and privacy. And in our presentation, we would like to focus more or less on legal topics and more on the practical side. That means I will show you today how we as a German software company not just created a product that is in line with GDPR compliance, but we also fully work as a company as its whole in a GDPR-like manner. But first, let me introduce myself and the company a bit more. My name is Armin Schweinfurth. I'm working at Alpha Training and Alfaview since 2018, and I'm business development manager. When we look at Alpha Training, Alfaview, it's a pretty interesting story because it was founded 2005, and it started as a labor market training company, which has now more than 280 branches in Germany. Already before 2010, the idea came up to train people online, to train them online and live. But the problem was the setting we wanted to have wasn't even realized by then. So basically, we didn't find any good solution, not in Germany, not in the US. And pretty fast, the idea came up to say, okay, let's do it by ourselves. And that was the start of Alfaview, our own video conferencing software. From 2010 on, we used our own video conferencing software to train people and also to communicate in our company. For example, when different teams communicate with each other or when employees communicate with each other. Since today, we fully use Alfaview for this. At around about 2016, the German software company SAP asked us to create a commercial product from Alfaview, and we said, okay, why not? And we did this, and we brought Alfaview to the market, and it was very, very interesting development since then because we heavily focus to be on 100% GDPR compliant, and since then we transformed from, I would say, a traditional training company or labor market training company to a SaaS company, which is not easy, as you will see in this presentation, but it's absolutely worthwhile. When we look a bit on the features are pretty the same, from other software as well, but with the twist that we are fully GDPR compliant. And it's nice to be the proof that you can all achieve this. You can have all the features for convenient use, for good collaboration, with a very good intention and the security to really have secure data and really data sovereignty in Germany and in Europe. When we look at our customers, it's pretty interesting because they have a kind of special needs because they rely on a very strict data protection framework. And they want to make sure, for sure, that not just the employee data is safe and secure, but also the company data is safe and secure, which is more and more important in our digital world. So let us go to the next slide. When we talk about data protection and privacy, we have to make sure that we talk about the same thing. So basically, it's easy to say we have a GDPR compliant product, but it's not that easy to say we're a GDPR compliant company. So basically, we ensure this, which means we have the ISO 27001 certification. All our data centers are located in Germany. That's very important. It's not just the servers are in Germany. The headquarters are also in Germany. Also, the data centers are ISO certified. We run around about 500 servers exclusive for Alfaview. And for sure, we have a highly part is the protection, for example, from the German Federal Office for Information Security in Germany called BSI, which is very important to us to have this certification, that also the server companies have this certification. And last but not least, all our audio and video streams are not shared and not stored. That's very important to be really fully GDPR compliant. Okay, when we go on the next slide, and let's talk a bit about the Transatlantic Data Privacy Framework, which is obviously a big topic at the moment. To be perfectly clear on that, I'm not a legal counselor, nor do I have any legal responsibilities in our company. But as a business development manager, it's my task to make sure that the company thrives also in the next 10 years. And for sure, as a company who has very high expectation of data protection and data protection laws, we have our own opinion regarding the Transatlantic Data Privacy Framework. We think that the framework is very similar to the failed privacy shield. And what we see from the organization from Max Schrems, which is called None of Your Business, it's also being taken to the European Court again to see if the privacy shield or this framework will really stand within the next couple of years. Despite several attempts, the European Union has been unable to reach a stable data protection agreement between US and the European Union. And when you look further into the framework, the agreement contains a few gimmicks to give the appearance of a solution, but it's not a true solution. And the Transatlantic Data Privacy Framework repeats the same assertions and schemes as previous agreements, and that have already declared invalid by the European Court of Justice. So what we see, what we expect, and what we also see in real life, what the organization of Max Schrems does, the organization is called None of Your Business, that they bring it to the European Court of Justice again, and that we will see a decision around about 2024 and 2024 to see which will be the result of this legal decision in front of the European Court of Justice. To come back to our more practical point of view, as you can imagine, just having a GDPR compliant product, as you can imagine, just having a GDPR compliant product is different than having a GDPR compliant product and completely working in line with GDPR. We decided we not just want to offer a GDPR compliant product, but we also want to make sure that all of our company processes are GDPR compliant as well. And on the next slides, I will show you exactly how this looks in real life and on our day-to-day work. We will look into 4 compartments. At first, we will look into the development of the software, because to be in line with GDPR or to be GDPR compliant has effects on software development. We will also talk about our service structure, our customer point of view. We also have a special handling of customer aspects here. And for sure, this also has consequences for our sales and marketing, and we also will talk about this. So let's dive into, let's at first look at the software development perspective. To make sure that we are really fully GDPR compliant, we have a kind of different approach to software development. That means at first we live remote work. In our opinion, our software company is our office, basically our virtual office, our virtual organization. And that means to communicate in this kind of manner, in this kind of building, we also have to communicate in line with the GDPR. And one very, very important principle regarding software development is the zero trust principle. That means even within our internal network, we encrypt all the data. So that means, for sure, a lot of companies have this, that they access internal data with a VPN. That's nothing special. But also then, that's not enough for us. We go a step further and says, okay, we authenticate the work you do within our software, at least with a username and password. And even then we say, okay, that's not enough to have data protection. Even then, we have different roles, different user roles, and based on the roles, you have permissions and access to different data during development. So basically, that means that our different departments on our development part, or when we see the development part as one department, the different teams don't have access to all the data, which is very important for us to really keep being in line with GDPR very high. When we look at the next step regarding the software development perspective, we also use a self-hosted chat system. If you would use, I don't want to name any US companies, but if we would have this with a traditional SaaS provider, the text messages tend to be visible to the tech provider to a certain degree, and we don't want that. We want to make sure that everything we talk regarding our software, our code, or our customer is really highly secure and has no chance to be able to exposed to third parties. We also do this with our code management. We use a self-hosted form of Git, basically a form from GitHub, which would be the SaaS solution, which was bought by Microsoft, but we decided to host it by our own. And this has also further steps. For example, when we look at what kind of software we use, it's very important for us to follow the guidelines, the European guidelines for the open software strategy, to make sure that we really use open source software that is highly secure. We also have things like that we work in a manner regarding privacy by design, or that we use principles like need to know, which make sure that only the party who's working on a certain aspect of the software has the information that is needed, and that they don't get access to more information than they need for their daily work. Let's get a step further. And when we look at the server technology, it's nearly the same slide I showed you before, but just to remind you how hard it is to be fully in line with GDPR. We don't just expect our own software, our own servers to be that way. We also expect our server partners to be that way. So basically 100% GDPR compliant and all the other certifications I already talked about. In addition, we also expect an agreement regarding professional licenses, for example, from doctors, psychologists, lawyers, to make sure that even this high-risk data, for example, if you're a customer from us and you're a lawyer, or if you're a doctor, that even this high-risk data is secure at the data centers we work with. Regarding server, we can go into more detail what it means to have or to expect to be GDPR compliant. And we work here with two principles. So that means we also want to make sure that we have an encrypted communication to and between our servers. The two principles are encryption in transit and encryption at rest. Let me give you a bit more details about this topic. Encryption in transit, when we transfer data to a server, or when we transfer data from a server to another, or even when we transfer data from one server company to another server company, we want to make sure that the data is fully encrypted. The same is when the data is on the server. So basically, this encryption occurs when or encryption at rest occurs when the data is stored in a physical way. So basically, we make sure, even if the data would be stolen from the server center, nobody can do anything with the data on the hard disk. So that's a very important principle for us to be really GDPR compliant. When we look at the customer perspective, it's also interesting to see how or what does GDPR compliant means in a daily manner. So basically, we don't send or the customer doesn't send automatic error reports from Alfaview if there would occur an error. We don't have any profile pictures of our customers. We don't store any audio and video streams. There are no personalized metrics, like we don't know which state, which city the person works from or uses Alfaview from. And we just have a kind of general overview, for example, to see which operational systems our customer use. And one important principle is also that we have the ICU UCMe principle. That means if you are not working with our video conferencing software, and for example, you want to have a pause, you can click a button which is basically called paused. And that means your camera is turned off, but also you're not able to see the other people in the room, which is pretty important to make sure that we don't have, a kind of spy function or whatever. And to avoid this, we introduced this principle ICU UCMe. Regarding sales and marketing, to be honest, we could have way easier if we would use tracking tools or retargeting tools or stuff like that. But we decided to make things right. And that means we don't use any marketing cookies on our website. Basically, we don't track anything on our website. So we don't have any cookie banners. We exclusively use GDPR compliant open source software within our company to make sure to be GDPR compliant in our processes. Our customer relationship management system is also 100% GDPR compliant. And for sure, we live not just in the point of view that we have to do it from a legal point of view, but also from understanding how we want to work. We have a high degree of data security within our company. I want to show you an example what that means in real life. Well, I have here a website comparison between our website and a US competitor. As I said before, it's not necessary to name any companies here. There's a tool out there. It's called Privacy Badger. Privacy Badger is a Chrome extension which helps you to see how many tracking or how many trackers are installed on a website and what kind of information these trackers ask you to get from your computer, from your web browser session, and so on. And it's very interesting because when you compare our website to the US competitor here in this case, we basically track nothing. We have zero tracker on it, but the US competitor decided to have 31 trackers or possible trackers on this website. So basically, what they do is they, for example, track the session time, they track where are you from, etc., etc. This I have another example with that, and it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. But as you can see here, it's also possible without tracking. And that's the important point when we look more into details, what data gets tracked and what does happen with this kind of data. Let me give you another example when we talk about mobile apps. Every mobile app, when you install a mobile app on your smartphone, needs access to different services on your phone. That's pretty normal. But when we look into more detail, we can compare this as well. I did also a comparison with our mobile app and with the US competitor app. And for sure, for example, we need, as shown here on the slide, we need access to network state, which basically checks if your internet is working. We need access to the camera because, well, we're a video conferencing system, so we need access to the camera. We need access to the microphone. We need access to the wake log, basically, that ensures that during a video conference that your phone doesn't get, or that the screen of your phone doesn't get turned off. And so that's pretty normal. So we need these seven services on your smartphone to be able to provide you a very stable, high quality video conferencing experience. When we look at an US competitor from us, they ask for 41 services, or they ask permission to access 41 services on your smartphone. And don't get me wrong, to a certain point of view, this totally can make sense. For example, one aspect here is this competitor wants to have access to your calendar data. To have calendar data in itself may have some valid reason, but it's a massive responsibility to access your business calendar. Because we can ask questions here like, over what period of time does the app has access to your calendar? What contacts are sent to the provider or to the tech provider? Is all data held on their server, or what happens with the data who is sent from your calendar? And if the data is sent to the provider, what other information from this 41 services can be linked to that data to truly create data points, to create a very, very good picture of you and your daily work in your business? As I said, that there's also a reason that we can always find a reason why it's interesting or necessary to connect all this data. But I also think that it's important that we ask ourselves if it's really, really necessary to access 41 services on your smartphone. To round this up and to have a conclusion of our today's talk, I think that it's very important to mention that true data privacy only works when we do it in an uncompromising manner. That means if we do it, we have to do it right. If we do it, there are consequences. For example, that it's way harder to work in sales or marketing because we don't use trackers and stuff like that. When we talk about GDPR, don't be fooled. Don't just talk about personal data here. Let's also talk about company data, like I showed before, the access to your calendar entries. How long is this access valid? Which calendar information gets stored? When does it get deleted? If it gets deleted, and so on. And in our point of view, true data protection is not just something you do for a product or for a service of your company. In our opinion, true data privacy and true data protection affects all aspects of the whole company and for the whole value chain. So to make this clear, it's very important that when we look at GDPR compliance, not just look at the product, look also on the whole value chain, on the whole process, how people manage your data in the company and in the software you want to use. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, please feel free to send us an email at info@Alfaview or visit our website. We're happy to answer you any question via mail. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Armin, for all the very interesting insights. We do have some minutes left, so I would like to ask you some questions.
Okay.
It's often needed to have a cultural change in the company, to implement changes to a privacy by design approach. How did that work for you? And what were the areas, departments were most important, which areas were most important to facilitate such a shift?
Yeah, well, it's very important to understand that we talk about change management process here. That means when you decide to go GDPR compliant, it's not something you can do in 2 weeks. Basically, it took us 2 to 3 years since we decided in 2018 to proceed this kind of business. And well, to be honest, it's not just one department. For sure, it started with the development department, sure, because development, server technique, ops teams, etc. These were the main driver there. But it affects the whole company. It's how you think about data protection, how we want to share data within the company. For example, there's no usage of Dropbox, or there's no usage of Google Drive and stuff like that. We also have to think a step further. And with every feature we launch on the software, and with every next step we go, we at first have to think about the effects on data privacy and if it's really worth it to bring a feature or to create a feature, because we don't want to compromise on on privacy aspects.
And one other question, what is your advice for other companies that are on their way to more data sovereignty and privacy by design? Any advice?
Yeah, very easy. Don't wait. Don't wait. Just do it. It's a way to go for sure, but do it because it's rewarding. It's rewarding from a customer point of view, but it's also rewarding from an employee point of view, because everyone in our company knows their data is secure. And that's a really big value which we live in our company.
Okay, so no waiting, just challenging this, this new task that we have. But okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Great. Thank you very much, Armin.
Thank you.